Hey guys, welcome back. I'm here today with a coffee table, or rather the legs of what will be a coffee table. I will link up there to the entire playlist on how I've created this coffee table. Today we're going to be talking about painting it. Now, I didn't end up filming the painting process because it was super windy outside, and the last thing I wanted to do was damage my camera with spray paint. So instead, I'm going to walk you through how I ended up doing it. And then I will definitely answer any questions in the comments below if you have any, so be sure to leave them down there for me. So just to give you a quick rundown, if you haven't seen the previous coffee table videos, the coffee table is made up of individual gears that have been 3D printed on the FlashForge Creator Pro using 3 different types of PLA. Some were in MakerGeek, some were in Melt, and some were in FlashForge. All of them were then sanded and epoxied together. And then after that, I decided to paint it because the black color didn't quite give me the look I was going for. If I were to ever make this coffee table again, I think instead of doing the sanding and painting side of things, I would instead opt for like the rustable filament from Protopasta and do that instead and kind of skip this whole section. But since I didn't do that, the color was a little too bright black and a little too shiny. And I needed kind of something a little different to mimic the other oil rub bronze items that we have in our living room. So to do that, I had to kind of mix some spray paints. But first, I needed to use a primer. Now, you saw in the gluing video that I did use some primer to kind of map out where I was going to be putting the epoxy. And then after that, I needed to put a couple more layers of the sandable filler primer. And I did that, and then in between, I sanded off any rough areas. Now, I only spot sanded. I didn't sand the entire thing because that would have taken me forever. So instead, I just spot sanded any places that were a little bit on the rougher side. I applied about 2 to 3 coats of the filler primer, 3 in the rougher areas, 2 everywhere else. Once that was dry, I let it sit for a long time, mostly because I was sick of looking at the gear table and needed a little bit of a break from it. But once I got back up and running, what I did is I put 2 coats of Krylon Satin Espresso paint on it. And the reason why I chose that is because it's a slightly warmer shade of brown. And I wanted kind of... the oil rub bronze color on its own that I topped it with was a little too black and a little too kind of flat color for what I was looking for. And I didn't want to end up with that kind of finish. I wanted something that had some warmth to it, like a real oil rub bronze would. So the way I did that was by putting the base coat of a warmer oil rub bronze underneath and then topping it with Rust-Oleum's oil rub bronze. I think it's their universal spray paint. And that allowed me to determine how much of the oil rub bronze I was going to put on top. And so certain places I put a little bit less, certain places I put a little bit more, and that allowed it to be a little bit more realistic looking overall. I ended up using about 4 coats of the oil rub bronze from Rust-Oleum, 2 coats of the Krylon Satin. And that seemed to create the nice finish that I was going for. From here, I am still debating whether or not I'm going to use a matte finish top coat. That was my original intention, and I was able to pick some up from work super cheap because we were no longer carrying it. So I do have some cans of that I could very well use on this. However, I'm not quite sure if it's necessary. I thought it was going to be a little too shiny on its own, but now that I've been looking at it for a couple days, the shine doesn't bother me. And the other oil rub bronze pieces in the living room are a little bit on the duller side, but they're not directly next to it, so you're not really going to see the difference. But the next question that I know you guys are going to want to know is, what am I doing for the top? There has been some debate in some live streams and some chats and some comments back and forth as to what I'm going to do with the top. I had quoted out glass originally, and it ended up being super expensive. So at almost $500, I couldn't really justify the price of a glass top. So I did quote out some acrylic, and 1/2 inch thick acrylic actually ended up quoting out right around the $200 mark. And that is a lot easier for me to justify for this project. So I'm going to go ahead and go that route. So that is what my next video will be on. I will be talking you through the ordering of the acrylic, what I thought of the final product, and then of course the final reveal where this coffee table will be moved into my living room, and you guys will get to see it in all its glory in its final resting place. I hope you guys have found this video helpful. If you have any questions about the paint that I used or the way that I went about painting it, please let me know. It was pretty basic. I was outside painting on top of a box. I painted one side and then let it dry, flipped it, painted the other side, repeated over and over and over again. So the process was just your basic spray painting process. I did go with thinner coats rather than thicker coats so that I would get the look that I was going for. But overall, I think it turned out really, really good. I'm super happy with it, and I'm really excited to see it in the living room and done. So that's really all I have for you guys today. I just wanted to do a quick little update on this. Don't forget to check out my last video, which is the All That Glitters video. There will be another one of those coming up next week. And huge thank you to my patrons over at Patreon. I could not do videos like this without your support. It absolutely means the world to me. You guys are the best. And I will see you guys again next time.